Okay, finally my chat box came back. When I did all that weird stuff to test which settings would be best for my computer, my chat room just completely disappeared from Streamlabs until tonight. And now it's back, and I didn't do anything. So thank you, Streamlabs.
Shout out to Streamlabs. All right, that is posted. So let me go to my personal page and share it.
Why is my webcam doing that?
You know, I love my webcam, but at the same time, I hate it because it just goes like in and out of focus at random times.
See, that's what it's
So
doing
it's
to
like
me.
I just have to sit here like that because I feel like if I move forward or backwards, it's just gonna. Whoop.
It's been acting up the last couple of days, like going in and out of focus, and it's weird. And I don't have any settings for it. It's just plug in and there it is. I don't have any kind of like little, like a box of like stuff for it to like adjust it or anything.
Technology's been. I won't say it since we're live, but it's been a witch lately. But I'm thankful to just have my computer. So
It's almost time for to upgrade the iMac. It is very close to
Uh,
that time.
I can't tell you how angry I was when my computer wouldn't come on.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's the exact same thing that happened to mine. And when I went to turn it on, it was just, everything was just gone.
I would have broke something if I were you.
I lost so many scripts and everything. I was like,
Oh
"Arr!"
man,
Luckily, some
that's
of them I was able to save because me and Wally would email them back and forth. So I had like some older versions of stuff, but a lot of stuff
that's
I
better
just
than
lost.
nothing.
Yeah. I probably saved about half my stuff, but it was older versions of stuff too. I would have like a third or fourth draft saved, but I would only have like a second draft that I had sent to
Yeah,
Wally. So I was like, all that work gone. Rampage, a chat room.
rampage.
But
Yeah, as soon as I got home, I saved everything
oh yeah,
on my external.
time machine is your
So,
friend.
yep, did that too. I did Time Machine, and I've also got like a physical external
Yeah.
as a backup.
Well,
So
I've got external hard drive hooked up to the iMac. I need to get a smaller one for my laptops just in case it goes out. But I save everything in between the two computers so I don't lose anything if it does go out. So
yeah.
All right. Well, I am hitting the record button, and all my levels are up. And
Are my levels okay?
yep, you sound good to me.
Okay, cool.
Ready to do this?
Yep, I got all the tabs open, so I'm all set.
Let's do it. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Greetings, programs, and we're back for another episode of the Nerd Cave Retro Show. My name is Jason Robbins.
And my name is Derek Diamond.
So, how are you feeling about the spooky season? Is in full effect. Are you feeling it?
I am actually, and the weather has been
It's been so
it's been getting better. I actually about 30 minutes before we did the show, I went out for a walk because I'm trying to get back in shape because I've let myself get very
Don't
very
even
out of
get me
shape.
started. Don't get me started on that.
So I'm gonna start running again, but I'm walking first to kind of get myself more acclimated.
Yeah.
And the weather was just perfect.
Oh.
You know, like the days are getting a little shorter, the air is just a little more crisp.
Yes.
It was perfect. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. There's a nice, like very gentle breeze.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
like it was perfect walking conditions. But
Good.
yeah, I've been watching quite a few horror films, getting ready for Halloween Ends, which actually comes out this week. And it's crazy because it almost doesn't feel like it should be coming out, but here we are.
Oh, yeah. Dude, the weather's so nice. I don't even have the air conditioner on right now. Remember last week? when my air conditioner was broken and it was like 95 degrees outside. No, it's a nice like 70s, 72 outside right now. I don't even have the air on, just have the fans. It's nice. Nice fall weather.
Yeah, it's the same with us, and I got my power bill for this month, and it's considerably cheaper than it
Mm.
was during the
I
summer.
hope
So I'm
mine
just like,
is.
that's a that's a nice little moral victory.
We got Joey Image in the chat room, and he picked up his Halloween Ends tickets last week,
Sweet.
and I got to get my tickets because I'm ready. I'm so ready for that.
Yep, we're going Thursday at I think it's 8 o'clock is when we're going. So I'm really excited for it. I've been watching all the old ones just because I'd seen Halloween 1 and 2, but
Hmm.
not like even though I know they're not technically canon anymore, I still wanted to watch
Well,
them.
one is, but two is not.
Yeah, and I can see why they're not. They have their moments, but they none of them hold a candle to the
Oh
original.
yeah, I watched the new Hellraiser Saturday
Is
night.
that any good?
Eh, I it's watchable, but it didn't really do much for me, and I don't know why. It just something about it just seemed very. Uh, there just weren't very many likable characters, and I didn't really care about anybody in there. It was just kind of like. I mean, it was cool. Don't get me wrong. It's cool. It's worth watching. But if you're a fan of the originals, you might be a little disappointed, which I kind of was. But it's okay. I don't want to say it's bad. It's just it's okay.
It's like because I've been asking people about it. It's like every person who says that they like it, the next person I ask says that they didn't.
Yeah.
So it's been very, very mixed. So I'm
Joey
gonna watch it at some point.
Joey has a question for us as filmmakers. He says, "How do they release movies the day before release like that? Official release is Friday." I mean, they've been kind of doing that for what at least about 10 years now because they used to do the midnight release
Hmm.
the night before, but they stopped doing midnight releases and just started releasing it the evening before. And I don't know what the catalyst was for that. It just sort of just overnight just kind of happened. Yeah, well
I
that
think it.
too.
I think it's purely money. The crazy thing is I feel like it's getting even earlier now. So like with Halloween Ends, there's a 5 o'clock showing here,
Mhm.
which is kind of crazy to me because that's when a lot of people get off work.
And for midnight showings too, a theater has to stay open. Theaters normally close regularly around what 11, like when the last
Hmm.
movie lets out, and then they're done for the night. If you stay open for a 12 o'clock show, that means you've got to keep the theater open. You got to keep people on the payroll. You got to keep the lights on. I mean, it's not cheap to keep a movie theater running until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So I would imagine that had a lot to do with it too.
I think so. I midnight releases were fun, but at the same time, I don't miss them because
Me neither.
well, because I still lived with my parents when those stopped, so I wouldn't get home until like 4 in the morning. The last midnight showing I went to, I believe, was Dark Knight Rises, and I got home a little after 4 a.m.
Yeah. I don't remember what the last midnight release was that I went to because I'm with you. The two things I don't miss midnight releases, and I don't miss unassigned seating. Like now that I don't have to get to the theater until 30 seconds before the movie starts is the greatest thing that has ever happened to movie theaters.
Oh, 100%. Didn't they do that just for select movies at first, and then they made it like just a thing now?
Hmm.
Because I remember when that first started, I was like, this is brilliant because you can pick what seats you want. And like you said, you don't have to get to the theater like an hour or so. Because I remember even for Force Awakens having to wait in line,
Yeah.
that like that night,
Hmm.
because I had to wait in line for like 5 or 6 hours before the movie even started so that we would get a good seat. So I don't
Joey
miss that at all.
Joey says that he worked in a video store once and he broke the street date and put a movie out early once, Braveheart, and the store got fined $5,000.
Wow.
I bet the. Do you remember? It wasn't It was a drugstore, but I think it might have been K&B drugstores way back in the day. Do you remember K&B drugstores? Did you have those where you were?
Mm-mm.
I remember when episode 1 was being released on VHS, and I had gone to the drugstore for something, and this was like a good 3 to 4 days before it was due to be released on videotape. And I'm talking like these were the VHS days, like, back in 2000, like VHS and DVD. Well, I walked in the drugstore, and it was like 3 or 4 days before it was to be released, and they had a display up full of VHSs for episode 1. And I was like flabbergasted, and I was like, "Are y'all selling these?" And the guy was like, "Yeah, they're for sale." I was like, "Okay." So I bought my copy, and I called on my friends. I was like, "Hey, dude, I got episode 1 on VHS," and everybody came over that night, and we watched it at the apartment.
That's crazy. I
I bet they
I mean,
got
I
fined.
was, oh, I bet they did too. I was a little like I remember VHS days, but like I was still a little young for remembering like when stuff was released before it was supposed to. I don't doubt that it happened
And
though.
I think I might have even had it pre-ordered at Blockbuster. You put like $5 down and you get it pre-ordered. I think I went to Blockbuster and was like, I don't need that anymore.
Episode 1, and I kind of miss the VHS
I
days.
do too. That's why I'm getting back into VHS, man. I collect VHS is so easy to collect these days. It's crazy.
I've still got they're at my parents' house, but my uncle gave me he used to tape all the old um WCW and
Oh
WWF
yeah.
pay-per-views from like the mid to late 90s. So I've got them all like unedited, unaltered, all of it.
I have a very complex way of watching that old wrestling stuff these days. um,
So I
a
hear.
close friend of mine has a very perplexing way of getting
Uh
that stuff.
you you took my pun. I was about to say that.
But I'm ready to go into the news. How about you?
We've got a couple of good things to talk
Yeah,
about.
let's do it. Some of today's stories were submitted to us by I Am the Rampage and Armez Jackson. And if you have a story you'd like us to cover, send them to nerdcaveretro@gmail.com. And this first story is from GameInformer.com. The Garbage Pail Kids, Mad Mike, and the Quest for Stale Gum. 1985 contains so many cultural touchstones. Let's see. It was the debut of the NES. Garbage Pail Kids also debuted in 1985. It was a trading card series that mixed the cuteness of the hit Cabbage Patch Kid dolls with outrageous, funny, and compelling grossness. And you know what's crazy? The Garbage Pail Kids were only around for like 3 years. Garbage Pail Kids have been around for like 35. That's crazy. Or
That is
37
crazy.
now. That's wow.
Hmm.
The cards were such a hit that creator Topps produced 15 series in the span of 3 years. They licensed it out for toys, school notebooks and folders, inflatable punching bags, you name it. This kind of hot success would normally lead to an NES game as the next logical step, but several factors got in the way. But they did make a movie. Did you ever see the Garbage Pail Kids the movie?
I did not, but I know of it.
It's terrible. We should do a commentary for it.
Sure. I love the terrible movie ones.
Let's see. This is a long thing. I'm trying to get to where they're talking about. Let's see. Tim Hartman and Greg Caldwell have been best friends since third grade. They connected over a shared love of NES games, Garbage Pail Kids, and other 80s cultural touchstones. And in their adult lives, they found themselves longing for an era of games that just weren't made anymore. They found a homebrew community where people were making new NES games in the same style and limitations of the original hardware. It wasn't long before they wanted in. Let's see, it says, for them, the cartridge comes first. This is where we got our start in game dev. We never made a game before. We made an NES game. That's always been paramount for us. They pulled together a small team under the name Retrotainment to create Haunted Halloween 85, which I will be reviewing next week. Spooky action platformer, which is on the Switch you can get right now. Let's see. The 2015 release was followed by a subsequent year by Haunted Halloween 86. I didn't know they made a sequel to it. Let's
I didn't
see.
either.
They started thinking of favorite childhood things, Garbage Pail Kids, and let's see. They worked their way through contracts at licensor tops and eventually convinced the executives to give them a shot. Retrotainment brought this up with partners IM 8-Bit, which recently announced it was getting into game publishing. The company was immediately on board. When Garbage Pail Kids came up in conversation, it felt so great to all of us. It was like, yeah, why wasn't there a game? So they show a lot of pictures of the gameplay here. And let's see. Can you contribute? No, I don't think so. I thought maybe there was a Patreon or something for it. Let's see. Mad Mike and the Quest for the Stale Gum begins directly after the events of GPK Mad Mike Fury Load, a series of shorts written by Adam F. Goldberg set in a post-apocalyptic world. The titular character saved the day, and now all he wants is his favorite stale gum. Unfortunately, the factory run by Brainy Janie only makes fresh gum, so he'll have to travel through time and space with his 3 friends on a high-tech toilet to collect the ingredients to make it properly stale. I want to play this right now.
I'm intrigued just by the title alone, because like, what's the motivation for stale gum? And I kind of want to find out.
It says it will come to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on October 25th. It will also arrive on NES via a special cartridge release sometime in the first quarter of 2023. And it shows the box and the NES cart, and it's kind of, they have a pink one and like a kind of a aqua blue colored cart. And oh my god, I'm so in for this.
It looks like Bubblicious gum
It
is
does.
what I think of, like the color scheme and everything. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. Like I'd be interested in trying this.
Were you into Garbage Pail Kids as a kid?
Mm-mm.
Dude,
I knew of it,
loved
but
it.
I never got into it.
Me and my friends were all about Garbage Pail Kids, and we weren't supposed to have them because our parents didn't want us to have them, but we'd sneak and buy them behind our parents' backs, and we'd trade them at school. We'd put them all over our Trapper Keepers and everything else. And like, dude, Garbage Pail Kids was straight up currency when I was in elementary school. And there were certain ones you just had to have. Dude, it was an entire phenomenon when I was a kid. And this makes me so happy. And I have to get the NES cart for this. I can't not get the NES cart for this.
I see also there's a link to a Garbage Pail Kids documentary. So that might be interesting, especially as someone that doesn't really know a lot about Garbage Pail Kids to check out. But yeah, it's cool that they're doing this physical release, because I like the box art. It looks like, a knockoff of a movie poster. I love the color scheme. It's very 1980s. So I could see why a fan would want one.
Let me go real quick while thinking about it. And if we start running late, we can cut some stuff. But I just want to look up
Yeah.
Garbage Pail Kids on Just Watch. All right, Garbage Pail Kids, the movie, is available to stream. It is not streaming anywhere.
Not even for purchase on Prime?
Nope, nothing.
Oh boy.
I knew I ran across a DVD of it at the flea market. I knew I should have grabbed it, but the guy was asking too much for it. Oh, and that's something I did want to bring up too. I was at the flea market the other day, and I found this booth. This guy had all this cool stuff. He had the Garbage Pail Kids movie on DVD, but he was asking way too much for everything. Oh, yeah, Joey, there might be a complex way to watch Garbage Pail Kids, the movie. But yeah, he had that on DVD. He was asking too much for it. And then I bought a Nintendo game. I forgot which one. Robo Warrior. I bought Robo Warrior for $5 from him, which is a good price for that NES game. And he mentioned that he had just picked up a copy of Little Samson. And I was like, well, do you have it on you? And he did. He was in his car. He got it. He let me hold it. I looked at it. I fell in love with it, but he didn't want anything less than $2,000 for it.
Jesus Christ.
I offered him 20 and he said no.
Yeah, because people clearly just have, $2,000 laying around that they
Who
can
brings
just like
$2,000 to the flea market? Are you stoned?
Do you prefer cash?
I'll give you my car. That's worth about
How,
$2,000.
how much did he want for the Garbage Pail Kids movie?
It was like $25 for the DVD.
Surprised he didn't say 1,500.
Let me just real quick. I'm gonna go to eBay. I'm just gonna look up the DVD price real quick. Garbage Pail Kids DVD. Right now you can get it for about $13 on eBay.
That's about what I would expect.
Yeah, they run between $11 and $13. So that's not bad. I'm glad I didn't pick it up. I could just get it here. Buy it now for $13.03, free shipping. And apparently they have a bunch of them because it says 27 sold. So apparently this place has a lot of them.
Just walk in and they sell nothing but Garbage Pail Kids the movie.
That's my kind of store.
Copies as far as the eye can see.
Yeah.
Let's see. Our next story comes to us from NintendoLife.com. Activision might be teasing a new Crash Bandicoot game. There have been rumors circulating for some time now about Crash Bandicoot getting a new multiplayer game, and it seems the reveal might finally be on the way. Activision has been sending out pizza box shaped packages to influencers such as YouTuber Canadian Guy A, I love that name, to announce the release of Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time on Steam this month. And there's the following line attached at the bottom of a fake receipt. Hungry for more? Try out our new Wumpa Pizza for $12.08, which also translates to December 8th. As you might recall, Wumpa League is the game that has been previously rumored but has also been described by some sources as something similar to a 4-player brawler almost, but Crash-oriented. So this is interesting because I was curious, when Crash Bandicoot 4 was released, if it would lead to more games coming out. If this is a brawler, my response would be, why didn't you just put Crash and Smash Brothers?
Yeah, I don't understand. If you're going to do a brawler like that, the Smash Brothers is just they're the gorilla in the room.
You're not going to top it.
Yeah.
There's physically no way to top Smash Brothers.
No.
Because I was convinced when they were teasing like the final character announcement, I was like, okay, it has to be Crash Bandicoot. And it was Sora from Kingdom Hearts, which is not bad. I'm not complaining about that at all. But I feel like you could have done a really cool announcement video to put like him with Mario and Sonic at the same time together for the first time. Like that would have been really cool, especially for, gamers like me who grew up in the 90s being a fan of all three of those franchises. I just don't think a brawler is the right way to go. I mean, maybe do a fifth platformer and maybe add like a new element to it. Or if you wanted to do a sequel to Crash Team Racing, I'd be okay with that. But I just don't think a brawler is the right way to go if you're going to do another Crash game.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, when you've got Smash Brothers out there in the world, that's the gorilla in the room. Nobody's going to top it. Why would you even try? Like, Crash Bandicoot is not that major of a character anymore, but he would be perfect in Smash Brothers. So, I don't know. I guess we'll see.
I think they're overestimating Crash's relevancy. If they had done it in the late 90s around the same time as Smash Brothers and say like Sony did their own version of it, that would have been something.
Yeah.
But I think it's too little too late to do a Crash theme because you have enough characters, but you're not going to have an extensive roster.
Yeah.
Like you might have like 16, you have like 16 fighters at the most. And you look at like the last Smash Brothers game literally had every character that's ever been in a Smash Brothers game.
Yeah.
It's like they hit the plateau. Like you're not going to beat it. So why even attempt it?
I don't know. Hopefully it's just another regular platformer, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know. This next story is from NintendoEverything.com. The Tourist and Fast RMX are getting physical releases on the Twitch. Super Rare Games, in partnership with Shin'en, today announced plans to offer physical versions of the Tourist and Fast RMX on Switch. Both will be limited to 6,000 units and will be available as standard and steelbook editions, and all copies come with the current content on their cart, a full-color manual, interior artwork, and exclusive sticker, and trading cards. So I don't know if you've played either of these. Discover about tourists that discover exotic islands and explore ancient monuments in this relaxing action adventure exploration game. And then Fast RMX is a fast racing game. Jump into the driver's seat of your very own anti-gravity vehicle and put your skills to the test in high-octane competitions with 36 exciting tracks to discover. See, physical versions pre-orders will begin on October 13th. In Europe through Super Rare Games. Copies ship shortly after release. So I don't know if this is coming to America, but this is definitely for our UK listeners and Europe listeners. If you want to get these, they are available on the 13th.
Yeah, the tourist sounds kind of interesting. That's more my speed than the racing game. As I mentioned, I don't dislike racing games. They're just not really my forte outside of Mario Kart. But I'd be, if this comes to America, I'd be interested in finding out more about the tourist game.
I honestly, I was kind of the other way around. I saw the anti-gravity vehicle, and the first thing I thought was, it's probably the closest thing we're going to get to F-Zero, so I might as well play
True.
that.
Very true. I I think it'll come to America at some point.
It
I don't know
should.
when, but I would think it would. From NintendoLife.com, voice of Mario, Charles Martinet thanks fans for all the love and kindness. It's been a huge week for Super Mario, with Illumination and Nintendo giving the world its very first look at the Super Mario Brothers movie, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes. Although the longtime video game voice of Mario, Charles Martinet, isn't leading this project, he hasn't been forgotten about. Fellow voice actor Tara Strong, who most people will know was the voice of Miss Minutes in the Loki series, she called out on social media to show him some love. She said, "Hey, Twitter friends, I happen to know a certain Earth angel who could use some love tonight. Have a story about Charles Martinet. Ever met him at a con? Share in this thread, pretty please. I love him so much that now we insist on being next to each other at all cons." And of course, there was a huge outpouring of fans showing pictures that they took of him at various conventions. So I think this was really cool.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that he's not the voice of Mario in the movie after being the voice of the character now for what seems like forever.
32 years, I think.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
really,
And
that's really, I know we like to keep this show PG, but that's a really shitty thing Nintendo did, was not let him voice Mario for the movie. I get it, you want Chris Pratt for the recognition, but that was a bad call, man. That was just a bad call.
unfortunately, it has to do with the name. And it's like,
And nobody's going to go who doesn't know who Mario is. They're not going to go see that movie just because Chris Pratt's in it. You would do just as much business if it was Charles Martinet doing the voice and not Chris Pratt. The only thing you're going to do is make people angry that Charles Martinet is not the voice. What were you thinking, Nintendo?
What's even worse is that Charles Martinet is voicing other characters, but not Mario.
That's, I mean, he is Mario.
And the thing is, like, I'm not discrediting anything that he's done, but this is my take on it. Since Super Mario 64, we haven't really heard Mario give extensive dialogue. He's had one-liners and catchphrases. However, and I'm not sure who's directing the movie, but that's when you can say, yeah, bring that to the character, but maybe like tone it down just a bit so it doesn't sound so over the top.
Yeah.
But he can still be the voice, and he's a talented enough voice actor that he can be directed. He's still directed when he's the voice of Mario for the game. So money talks too much in Hollywood, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. And I watched the trailer. Well, actually, let's
go ahead and talk about the trailer.
This next story, of course, from CNET.com. Super Mario Brothers movie trailer debuts. Here, Chris Pratt and Jack Black. And it just goes, I mean, we already know the trailer dropped the other day. Everybody here listening to this has probably seen it. I was very impressed with Jack Black as Bowser. You can't really tell that it's Jack Black because his voice is so modulated, but you can tell it's him because of his inflections, if that makes any sense. But he sounds great as Bowser. Sounds awesome. Who is it that's playing Toad? Is that
Keegan Michael Key
Keegan Michael Key?
from Key
They've
and
got
Peele.
his voice very modulated. You can barely tell that it's him. But when it comes to Mario, it just sounds like Chris Pratt to me. Sounds like Star-Lord. Sounds like, it's Chris Pratt doing his voice as Mario, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get past that.
Yeah, I agree with you about the trailer. I think visually it looks great. I was immediately blown away with Jack Black as Bowser, and I think they actually did a great job of making Bowser seem like a threat because he's been portrayed as comedic in a lot of things, like even some of the Mario games. If you go back to the Mario Brothers Super Show cartoon, Bowser was never really a threat, even though he's this fire breathing dragon. But visually, like when he spews the fire out and like destroys that castle in the Ice Kingdom, was awesome. And like I loved it. They, I think by design, didn't have Mario speak all that much because they have to know that there's going to be a lot of criticism about Chris Pratt. To play a little bit of devil's advocate, and we'll have to hear more to see if I'm right about this, but something that people forget about Mario is that he's a plumber from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
That happens to fall into the Mushroom Kingdom. That has been kind of lost on really this whole generation of Mario fans because it's never really been portrayed like he's been in the Mushroom Kingdom for forever. I think that's the route that they're going because what little we did here, there was almost like a little bit of I won't say a great one, but a New York style accent. So I think they're going to portray that, which I
But
like.
Chris Pratt doesn't have a New York accent. It doesn't
Exactly.
sound like he's putting on an accent.
Yeah, we're going to have to hear more, but I think they know that this is not a good decision.
I mean, I'm with you. I'm just holding out. I'm holding my reservations. I don't want to say anything bad or good. I just don't know. But what little I heard, I'm like, that just doesn't.
It just sounds like Chris Pratt.
Yeah, it just sounds like Chris Pratt. Like it's just his voice. Like he's not putting on an inflection. He's not putting on a Brooklyn accent. He's not doing, it's a me. Like he's not doing any of that. He's just talking like I am right now. Like, hey, I'm Mario. Let's go to the Mushroom Kingdom. And it's kind of like, I don't know if I'd really like that too much.
I was a little disappointed we didn't get any Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong.
I was just about to say that they do have Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong, which I think is pretty good, and I'm really excited to hear how he's going to put on a voice for Donkey Kong.
I mean, I'm not going to blow smoke and say that because of Chris Pratt, I'm not going to go see the movie. Of course, I'm going to go see the movie. I'm trying to be optimistic about it and be a little bit of a devil's advocate and like maybe it won't be so bad, but we need a full trailer because this was more of a teaser. We need a full trailer where we have exchanges of dialogue with Mario and Peach, with Mario and Luigi, Mario with Donkey Kong. You're going to have to do it eventually because he's the title character. It's called the Mario Brothers movie. You can't hide from it forever.
Joey said in the chat room that he read somewhere in a Twitter article that Martinet said he and his voice couldn't handle doing the voice for that long to record it. But that's what Derek was saying a minute ago. So what we're saying is if he did do it, rein it back in a little bit, still give it those Mario-isms like it's a me, like let's go, like where he's like ready to do something, but when he's just talking, doing kind of like the Mario voice, but do it, like more of a Brooklyn accent to it. But Martinet could more than handle that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just unfortunate that he's not doing it. I was hoping that he would, but Hollywood's stupid sometimes.
Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
It's going to be tough for them to top the Sonic movie. I'm
Yeah,
just saying that.
but we're running a little bit long tonight, so we're gonna skip this month in video game history until next week. And before we go into the review tonight, we like to do a little thing called Patreon shout outs. And Derek, would you like to do the honors?
As always, we'd like to shout out our awesome patrons over at patreon.com/nerdcaveretro. We want to shout out Daniel Salmon, Tyler Watson, Axeblade07, Armes Jackson, Carlos Longoria, better known as I Am the
Rampage.
Rampage, Staff Sergeant Sketch, Gus and Penny, Matthew Salmon, Mike Eveland, Jennifer Eveland, Joey Image, and Donna Diamond. Thank you all so much for your continued contributions and keeping the lights on for us here at the show. If you want to sign up for our Patreon, you get early access to our awesome commentary tracks that we do every month. Much like, we've recently did an episode of Cobra Kai. We've done animated shows like Gargoyles, Batman the Animated Series, DuckTales, Chippendale Rescue Rangers, full movies like Transformers the movie.
Oh, and with Joey in the chat room, we got to figure out when we're going to do our commentary for this month, the Halloween commentary.
Yes, we'll talk off air about that.
Yeah,
because we definitely need to set that up because we're already about halfway through the month. But yeah, we've done all kinds of cool commentary tracks, and also you get access to the Nerd Cave Retro News Dump show that you and Mr. Wally Phelps host.
And if you want to get access to that, where you guys love Wally. He's on all the commentary tracks. Everybody loves our fact checker, Mr. Wally Phelps. So go give us $1. As little as $1 a month get you access to those extra shows that we do, the news dump and all that, the commentary tracks. So go over there and support us. You want to support us, don't you?
I wish I was half as popular as Wally.
Hey, and before we go into the review, I did want to show this. I teased this a couple weeks ago on Twitter. I picked up a copy of Street Fighter the movie on VHS. It's a damn near mint copy of this movie. It's not sealed or anything, but it is perfect. And I want to give this to one of our listeners. So we need to come up with a good contest to do. What do you think would be a good... we could talk about it this week and we can do the contest next week. But if you guys have a good contest that we could do, shoot it to us at nerdcaveretro@gmail.com or tweet at us what you think would be a good contest. And one lucky listener of this show is going to get Street Fighter on VHS.
The smoking jacket is not included.
Yeah, no smoking jackets.
But you have to find that on your own.
But yeah, and so let us know what you think, what kind of contest we should do. And tonight, Mr. Derek will be talking about... I could listen to the Castlevania soundtrack all day.
I was going to say, if you just want to play that for the rest of the episode, I'd be perfectly okay with it. Yeah, the soundtrack was great. One of my favorite parts about the game. So when we started this show back in the summer of 2016, there were a select group of franchises that I was like, you know what? I'm sure Jason will talk about them. We'll talk about them in the news, but I'll probably never review one of these games. But here we are, almost 300 episodes later, and I will be reviewing the original Castlevania, which, as you know, was released by Konami for the NES in Japan in September of 1986, September 26th, to be exact. I was a month and 8 days old when this game was released.
Wow.
Yeah, so where to start with this game? So when you had the idea for it, because I've been tossing a few ideas back and forth on what to review for October, and I was actually really excited to really dive into this game because I've played it off and on. I played the sequels as well, but I haven't really sat down for a couple of hours to try and play it. I know you're a huge fan. You've been a huge fan, as long as you can remember. You introduced me to it, which then, they launched the animated series a few years ago.
And one
that
of the
we both
few NES games I can actually finish pretty consistently these days.
Yeah, so I was really excited to sit down and play this game and maybe offer a little bit of a different perspective because I didn't grow up with that sentimental value that we talk about, that sense of
Yeah.
nostalgia that I want to say, I mean, it adds to these games. Like I'm that way with Zelda and Sonic games. I grew up with them, so I'm going to have different takes on them than you do. So diving into this game, I love the universe. Like
Mm.
I like that old horror movie style feel where you're going into Dracula's castle to kill him. Like the concept is very simple. The controls are easy. I knew a little bit, because I took your advice and I watched a couple of playthroughs and read some, walkthroughs and whatnot, so I could have a better idea of how to go about this game. And I'm so glad that I did because
Hmm.
there are little nuances that I didn't know about that had I not, I probably would have had a little bit more of a difficult time.
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest ones for this game, and if you play this game and you didn't like it, if you go back and play this game with knowledge of some of the little tricks and hacks for this game, like number one, the holy water is so
Mm-hmm.
overpowered in this game that if you have holy water and you manage, if you can keep it, if you can get used to going through the levels and not dying, and you can make it to the boss with holy water, you can pretty much just walk through this game because the holy water, as long as you're using holy water, it's you it makes the difficulty of the game from a 10, brings it down to about a 6.
Yeah. It especially helped in the Medusa fight,
Oh yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
I made it a point because in the walkthrough, it was like, keep the holy
yeah,
water
yeah.
for when you fight Medusa. So I did, and it was much easier.
Mm.
Because I did watch a playthrough of someone beating Medusa without it. And I was like, I could probably do it, but you know what?
Hmm.
Why chance it?
Well, even with the Grim Reaper, the Grim Reaper arguably is as hard, maybe harder than Dracula, the final boss. Which Dracula's pretty hard. Don't get me wrong. You gotta have specific strats to beat him. But when it comes to the Grim Reaper, if you don't have the holy water, that fight is almost impossible without it.
And that's another one that I didn't chance it. Like I don't consider it cheating. I consider it strategic.
Well, I mean,
So
it's a feature of the game. It's.
yeah, but a lot of people they don't like to use the OP'd weapons because they say
Yeah,
it makes the game too easy.
yeah,
I look at it as strategy.
yeah,
Like, is it overpowered? Sure, but it's a feature in the game.
yeah. They put
What
it in
why
the
why
game.
why not use it?
Yeah, why make life harder for yourself by not using the most overpowered weapon in the game?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, one of the only few gripes that I have with the game, and it's very minor. I notice this whenever you start playing it. Simon feels like he's got bricks in his shoes
Yeah, you
because
get
you move
used
so
to it.
slow. Yeah, you do, and Castlevania is not the only platform game like that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you haven't ever played it, whenever you jump, it's like you sink like a
Mm-hmm.
stone like that.
Yeah, it's really hard to go to play Castlevania after playing games like Mario Brothers or even Ninja Gaiden, where you can jump and still kind of direct yourself in a certain ways, to reach platforms and stuff. But when it comes to Simon, he's like jumping a tank. Like when you jump, you're committed to that jump. There's no backing out or moving the D-pad back in the other direction to go back to where you jumped from. No, once you jump, that's it. You're going.
If you jump right, that's the direction you're going,
Yeah.
and There's nothing you can do about it. But like you said, you get used to it. It's interesting going back and playing games from that generation of how like the controls are so different
Hmm.
then compared to how games are now. But it's almost like muscle memory in a way. Like if I go back and play, Super Mario World as compared to like a newer Mario game,
Yeah.
it's like I can the back of my mind I can still remember how to compensate for certain things. Don't ask me what I had for lunch 2 days ago because I can't remember that, but I can remember little nuances of like Link to the Past, Mario World,
Well,
and
it's
games like
just
that.
it's one of those games that you only have so many buttons to work with on the NES, and there were certain control schemes that were just felt natural, like especially when it came to things like using your sub weapons, like your holy water and things like that. Like you press up and hit B, like that's just it's almost instinctual, if that makes any sense. Like that's what it feels like it should be, and it's it's based off the Mario controls. Like A is to jump, B is to use your weapon, and you got your directional pad, and then to use your sub weapon is up and B. Like that's all you need to know for the game, and it's perfect. They didn't try to do anything weird. They didn't try to make the select button to do anything like sub weapons or anything like that. It's just straight up like it feels like the controls are what they should be.
Well, it complicates things yet simplifies them at the same time because you only have certain buttons to work with. You know what you have to do, and you're like, well, on one hand, I'd like to have more options, but it's also nice to play something that's kind of simple.
Yeah,
Like you don't have to worry about, like go up at an angle and then hit A and B at the same time.
yeah,
It's you have simple objectives and yet can be challenging. But the controls in this game are very good. They're simple, they're clean, minus the jumping issue and Simon feeling like he's got bricks in his shoes. You can compensate for that fairly easily. I like the weapon system. It's very simple. I mean, you have your whip that you can upgrade. You've got the other weapons you can find, like you mentioned, the holy water. There's knives, axes. There's the watch, which I like the watch quite a bit as well.
yeah. The watch and the holy water are really the only two sub weapons you really want because they're both very useful. The other ones, like the throwing knife, doesn't really do much, so I always try to avoid it at all costs.
I tried them out, but I found myself doing the same thing. I'm like, the whip is just like it's so much easier to use. It's more effective. So I'll save the watch and the holy water for when I need them.
Mm-hmm.
But all you need for the most part is your whip.
Mm-hmm.
So it it's simple in that regard, but I really enjoyed it, and I like I like the graphics of the game too. Like it's colorful, but not like you've got like all the grays and like
Mm-hmm.
the reds really stand out to me, really kind of emphasizing that kind of horror type of feel, which is really cool. I will say I made it to Dracula, but I did not defeat him
Yeah.
because of that. And it's either going to be this weekend or next. I will be streaming it.
And the key to defeating Dracula is especially try not to speed run it. Be very.
No, no, no,
You
no.
have to be very patient when it comes to fighting Dracula, and you have to jump over what he does is he appears and disappears on if nobody's ever played if for some reason you listen to this show and you've never played Castlevania and made it to Dracula, he disappears and reappears at different parts of the room. So you've got to constantly be moving, or he's going to reappear like right on top of you. So you try to you try to get away from when he appears, and when he does, he opens up his cape, and 3 fireballs come out. You have to jump over the fireballs and be just at the right amount away from him to not only clear the fireballs, but also do the whip and hit him in the head. Now, he has 15 hit points at this point. So you got to do that 15 times. And then once you do that, his head flies off. Then you got to fight the gargoyle that he becomes. He has 15 more hit points, but the gargoyle is way more manageable because as long as you have As long as you have the holy water, you just spam holy water on him and hit him in the face with the whip, and you're done. But that first part, that 15 times hitting Dracula in the face is just it's just a waiting. It's just patience is all it is.
Yeah, and that was kind of my biggest problem was that I'm usually a very patient gamer, but for that instance specifically, I was getting a little too anxious,
Mhm.
and that's where I found myself dying.
That's what I used to
So
do all the time before I could beat it. I would just get way too anxious and try to hit him multiple times, like and you mess up. You just have to take the one hit. When he does the three fireballs, just hit him the one time and then run. Go to the other side of the screen. Just be patient.
I find myself doing that with other games too. Like once you get to the final boss, it's like you try and get as many hits as you
Yeah.
possibly can, even if you get hit a time or two.
Hmm.
But then when that happens, chances are you're going to run out of life before the boss does.
Yes.
So that's what happened with me. But overall, like I do really like this game. I love the visuals. It almost plays out, and it's funny because we mentioned the animated series. It almost plays out like a movie in a
Hmm.
way. Like it reminds me of a movie. Like it makes me want to see a live action Castlevania movie
Well,
with.
this
Go ahead.
original game was based off of like the guys that programmed the game, the people that programmed it and designed it were all fans of the old Hammer horror films,
Right.
the 50s and 60s, and they even pay homage to that in the you know the credits at the end of the game. And then the game is set up like you at the very beginning when you're walking to the castle, you see the film reels on the side of the screen, and then at the very end of it, it's the same thing. You see the film reels on the side of the screen. You see the credits, and they pay homage to those old Hammer horror movies.
And that's really cool because you can see the influence. It made me think of like the classic, Universal horror movies.
Hmm.
So I'd love to see like the series is great, but I'd love to see it in live action.
I would
I
too.
I think now with technology being the way it is and even practical effects being better than they were back in like the 80s and 90s, I would love to see a true live action Castlevania movie. Release it around Halloween, and I think you could get people to go. Just
Oh
don't
yeah,
cast Chris Pratt as Simon
yeah.
Belmont.
Who would you cast as Simon Belmont? Or even Trevor Belmont if they were to go the route of the anime on Netflix, which is Castlevania 3 basically.
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, hmm, I'd have to think about that.
I would I would make Benedict Cumberbatch as Dracula though.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I think he'd make a
I would
pretty good
love that.
Dracula.
I love Cumberbatch as a villain. He plays a villain so good.
But who could play Simon Belmont though? That's the question. It had to be a good British actor. Uh
It might be cliche to say Henry Cavill.
Ooh, I think he would be a good Trevor Belmont.
Yeah, yeah. I feel
Joey
like
says the Rock. I can't put the Rock in everything.
the most electrifying vampire hunter in history. No, no, the I love The Rock, but he's been in too much.
Yeah,
What's sad is I have little to no interest in seeing Black Adam. And I
I'm
love The Rock.
I'm kind of the same way.
Like I'll watch it, but
Yeah,
I'm
I,
not like
Joey said if he was still alive, Brandon Lee. Like Brandon Lee would make a pretty good Simon Belmont, I think.
mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I would have to think about it.
yeah, I would too. But I love the idea of Cumberbatch as Dracula.
That's
That would be
that would
perfect.
have to be like who
And
else could you get?
he would own every bit of scenery that he would be in.
Ralph Macchio.
With Martin Cove as Dracula.
Yeah.
There we
Uh,
go. No, the guy who plays Terry Silver as Dracula.
oh, that's not bad. He would make a pretty good Dracula, I think.
He's an underrated actor. Like
Yeah,
he's good.
I
He's
would
very
watch
good.
it. Whoever's in it, I would watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I would watch it regardless. I really hope, and I was reading an article about the Mario Brothers movie about there being more video game films, and that's why I want Mario to be successful. As selfish
Hmm.
as it sounds, it means we'll get like a Castlevania movie potentially.
But if they were to
Or
do Castlevania movie, I would want it to be rated R though.
yeah, it has to be. You you could do it PG-13, but it wouldn't be nearly as good if you did
Because
it
I
rated
mean, you
R.
look at the anime on Netflix and it's hard R. Like it is a gory,
Yes.
very gory anime, and I want that for live action too. I want to see, demons and blood and guts, and I want a pissed off Dracula, and it would be so cool. I would watch it. I would watch that right now.
Oh, I would too. Absolutely. But to get back to the discussion of the game, I mean, we've talked about the reception. I mean, it's a very popular game, very well reviewed. Since its original release, Castlevania has received a generally positive reception. Famitsu gave it a 34 out of 40. Computer and Video Games also gave it a positive review in 89, praising the huge playing area and lots of neat touches that would keep you engrossed for weeks. That's another thing I like about this game too, is that it's not a short game.
Hmm.
So you can spend a lot of time playing it, which I really like. And I like how it's divided up into sections. Like
Yeah,
there are levels, and then each level has a section to it. It gives it like a big game type of feel,
definitely
which
has
I
a
really
lot of
like.
replayability to it.
Yes. Yes, it does. As far as my thoughts in it, I mentioned I like the graphics. I like the story. I'm want to play the sequels more extensively now. Like I really like that universe. I would give it, I'd say a solid 8 out of 10. I wouldn't give it higher. I didn't grow up with the game, so I don't have that nostalgic feel for it, but I do really like it. And as I mentioned, either this weekend or next, I'll stream it and let
Awesome.
everybody know.
Well, next week, like I said, I'm going to be reviewing Haunted Halloween '85. That was came out on the Switch a few years ago. It is a side-scrolling beat 'em up in the vein of River City Ransom, and I've been playing it the last couple of weeks. It's very good, and if you're into really weird little beat 'em ups for the Switch that are 8-bit inspired, and it looks like something that would have came out on the NES. Like it's not, doesn't have any of the. It looks like an old game, but it plays like a new game. No, it straight up plays like an old NES game. So it's a very good game. I'm going to review that next week to continue Halloween Horror Month.
Nice. And then in 2 weeks, I will review the original Resident Evil. So
Sweet.
I'm just gonna keep diving into your franchises, my friend.
Awesome. I like it.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's going to bring us to the end of the episode. And now I'm sad because we're at the end.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
that's what sucks about podcasting is that it has to end at some point.
But I had fun tonight. This was a good
Yeah,
episode. I was very looking forward to jumping back into Castlevania because it is definitely in my top 10 best NES games. And it's weird because I started out when I was a kid. I played part 2 before I played part 1. So I went from I played part 2 and I liked it, but I never could finish it, and it was not linear. It was kind of hard to understand. And I still liked it anyway because I was a fan of those old horror movies. And then I went back and played the original Castlevania, and it was such a different experience from what part 2 was. And from that day forward, it's been just one of my favorite games ever for the NES. Even though it's a little, like you said, the controls are a little beefy, a little hard to get used to. But because he is so, like you said, he feels like he's got bricks for feet. But you get used to it. And once you get used to it, it's one of the best NES games out there.
I would agree with that. I think it's definitely belongs in that upper tier of NES games with Super Mario Brothers 3,
Mm-hmm.
Legend of Zelda, Mega Man 2. It's in that category.
And if you're a fan of stairs, play Castlevania 3. That game is Stairs the game. This is what that game is.
Castlevania 3, Stairmaster.
Stairmaster. But what's going on before we get out of here? What's going on with feature presentation?
Yes, so Halloween Horror Month will continue on my show as well. I'll be chatting with horror director Todd Sheets, who has been directing pretty much exclusively horror movies since the 1980s. So he's had a pretty long and extensive career in that. So he'll be joining the show to just talk about his career and horror movies in general. That'll be at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time tonight over on the Feature Presentation YouTube channel. And you can follow it on social media at Feature Pres Pod.
And over on the Open Micers podcast, a couple of weeks ago, we spoke to comedian Ariel Elias, and which is awesome because I don't know if you've been following what happened this weekend. She got attacked on stage. Somebody threw a beer at her. A Trump supporter threw a beer at her. It was caught on tape, and she picked up the beer and chugged it. And she's been called, she handled it like a boss, like a champ. It got retweeted by, Jimmy Kimmel, pretty much every known comedian, Patton Oswalt, Jim Gaffigan. So many people were retweeting it over the weekend. She's probably going to be on Jimmy Kimmel. She asked Jimmy Kimmel outright if she could make her late night debut on his show, and he said yes. So she's going to blow up here very soon. So go back to that episode. Check it out. We talked to her on episode 121 of the Open Micers podcast. Go check her out. And then last week, we talked to Mr. Mike Evelyn, Jester himself, and Jen Evelyn, his wife, Mike and Jen Evelyn, from the Innsmouth Rag podcast. We talked to them last week about our favorite horror movies to watch in October, and it was a fun episode. So we got a lot of good stuff going on over at Open Micers, on Twitter and Instagram. And I think that's going to do it. Derek, are we ready to call it an episode?
Yes, sir.
Let's go ahead and get out of here. If I can play my music here. If you would like to email us at nerdcaveretro@gmail.com. We just go to nerdcaveretro.com. That takes you everywhere you need to go. All our links are there. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Most importantly, our merch shop is there. ncrmerch.com, where you can go buy t-shirts, hats, stickers, bags, magnets, whatever you need is right there, ncrmerch.com. Also from there, you can go to our Patreon, patreon.com/nerdcaveretro, where you can give us money every single month to keep this show afloat, and we do those commentary tracks for you, and me and Mr. Wally Phelps do the news dump every time there's news to be had. And if you can't do that, I understand. Leave us a review wherever fine podcasts are given away for free. So Derek, please tell them what it's all about.
May the way of the hero lead to the Triforce.
Yes.
Wise man say, forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza.
I captured that yesterday.
Gotta love that movie.
I had to get some new clips. I feel like our clips were getting stale, so I had to get some new clips. I got this too. I was gonna play this next week. Did you hear that one?
It sounded kind of muffled.
Oh, really? That's weird. Hold on. Let me. Is everybody hearing that okay? That's weird. Huh.
It's like it's trying to come through, but there's like, I can start to hear it.
I know what's wrong with it. I'll fix that this week. I know exactly what's wrong with it.
Okay. Rampage says it sounds fine on his end.
Okay, yeah. I think Zoom has trouble playing WAV files. That's what it is, because this is a WAV file, and I need to convert it to MP3. That's an easy fix.
You can surprise me next week.
All right. Well, thank you guys for hanging out with us. I will be back in 30 minutes for Open Micers. Tonight we're talking to a comedian called Pickle.
And we'll be back at 7:30 Central, and be there at 8 o'clock for Derek on feature presentation over on YouTube. And we will see you guys next week.